Hello folks and welcome to the paddock here at Silverstone on a monumentous and historic day for the sport. The first ever sprint has been and gone with Max Verstappen duly taking pole position for the British Grand Prix. I'm Will Buxton, he's Jolyon Palmer. Joe, what did you make of it?
It was a bit of fun, wasn't it?
It was.
It was good for some great battles. I don't think I really expected it to be as adventurous through the whole thing. Obviously some stand-up performers, a change for pole position as well, which probably didn't think would necessarily happen with Lewis on pole and on such good form. Yeah, it was good entertainment.
It really was. Let's run through the results then at the end of the 100 kilometres, 17-lap contest here at Silverstone. Lewis Hamilton may have started from the P1 slot, but it's Max Verstappen who will start the British Grand Prix from pole position. Lewis Hamilton in second, Valtteri Bottas in third. They each score points today. Charles Leclerc will line up fourth tomorrow then, with Lando Norris in fifth and Daniel Ricciardo sixth, making it a North McLaren third row. Then Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel on row four, George Russell and Esteban Ocon completing the top 10. In P11, it's Carlos Sainz who had a difficult afternoon ahead of Pierre Gasly, Kimi Raikkonen, one of the racers of the afternoon. Then Lance Stroll and Antonio Giovinazzi, Yuki Tsunoda and Nicholas Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin and Sergio Perez. The big loser today, Jolyon, 15 positions, and that is the jeopardy of the sprint. Started P5, but will start the Grand Prix from 20th and last.
And that's huge. It's huge because you've got, on the one hand, Red Bull chuffed, Verstappen's on pole position, but he's got no help for tomorrow. Perez starting from the back, he's not going to feature with the Mercedes and Max in that battle at the front. So it's bittersweet for Red Bull and for Checo. It was just a poor start, put him on the back foot, and then he was too desperate to get back onto terms with Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso, and a bit too much gas coming out of Beckett's, too much steering lock. The Pirelli tyres don't like it, and I tell you, he was lucky to keep it out of the wall.
Let's start at the start then. This was a step into the unknown for everybody. Of course, a free choice of tyres coming into this contest this afternoon. 4 drivers ultimately deciding to go on a soft tyre, which Pirelli didn't believe would last the distance. And one of those was Valtteri Bottas, who was running old softs.
Yeah, I mean, punchy, really punchy call from Mercedes. And this was the thing, the whole thing was balancing risk and reward. And the risk, obviously, that you do a Sergio Perez and you throw away a solid grid position and end up at the back. The reward, you gain a couple of places. And for Valtteri and Mercedes, it must have been to get the start and try and do what Fernando Alonso did, gain places, at least one, to get Max back down to third.
Yeah.
Didn't pay off, but no cost for him because he's still third.
This is it. I mean, Mercedes had run the soft tyre during FP2 this morning. They had good knowledge on what the used tyre would be like. But the other drivers that raced the soft, they all raced the new soft, and each of them made up the most places of any driver in this afternoon's race. Fernando Alonso made up 4 places to finish 7th. Ocon made up 3 places to finish 10th. Raikkonen made up 4 places to finish 13th. Worth taking the gamble.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to talk Fernando Alonso. That start was just tremendous.
Well, let's talk about Fernando then, because it was, I mean, let's have a look at the start as well, because here it is for you, Jolyon. Just a brilliant start from Fernando.
Yeah, I mean, on the soft tyres, you've got more grip at that point than those on the medium, but you've still got to make it work. And obviously Valtteri couldn't make inroads on Max, who had a good start at the front. But Fernando, he's so committed, and he loves the outside line. And having raced against him in the midfield as well in years gone by, I know how hard he is, and he just pops up in unexpected places. And he just kept the charge going. You think sometimes you come through and you attack for a couple of corners and then you just sort of settle with where you're at. But he just kept looking forward, eyes down, and then he passed Perez as well on the inside of Brooklands, then goes around the outside of Lando at Luffield into Copse. I mean,
he's P5.
It's brave, and he's up to P5. It was extraordinary.
It was ridiculous. He was P5 from, where was he? P11 on the grid. It was just a wonderful start, mesmerising stuff, which we expect from him. But we were, of course, expecting that first lap to be incident-filled. Incident-filled it was. George Russell and Carlos Sainz having a little get-together. There is George Russell just walking behind there. He had a good day, but that little contact, well done, George. Little contact, what do you think the stewards will be looking at there?
I think it'll be okay. I think George, he picked up some understeer. He had Carlos on the outside, and I think it's one of those ones where it's first lap, the cars are close. George understeered into Carlos. I haven't had a great look at it, to be honest, but there we go. It's just Sainz just trying to come around the outside. George is clearly understeering.
That's us looking at
these things happen. These things happen on the first lap, and so often we see them unpunished. We know that the stewards are a little bit more lenient on the first lap, and I mean, Sainz had a really good recovery from that as well.
He did. He was down to P18. He fought his way back to P11, Carlos, at the close. So a brilliant battling drive from him, showing once again, and as we saw in Austria over the past 2 races, the race pace of the Ferrari is serious.
Yeah, and obviously Charles had a pretty quiet race in fourth, chasing Valtteri, but the Mercedes is a little bit too quick. But Carlos showed that car can overtake as well, and he was just scything his way through. There was a little bit of a DRS train coming behind Fernando. The 2 McLarens obviously making it through, but then Sebastian never could. Vettel stuck behind him to the end, and then there was Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon. But Sainz was the one man that just scythed his way through all the way. Really, really good.
There was, of course, the battle for the win, the battle for the pole position, and it came right from lights out. Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton. It didn't go the way the British crowd wanted, but Max, with his left front on fire, and he was on fire as soon as the lights went out.
It was a little bit like Baku, wasn't it? The final 2 laps, and there was the guy in second place with smoking front brakes. And it was Max this time, and I think he was lucky that the lights went out when they did. Otherwise, that fire was probably flaming from that front left. But he obviously just super amount of brake warm-up. That's what is required for these sprint races. You know the first lap's going to be critical, and he got the drive. Lewis not really getting the drive. I think too much wheel spin for him, and Max through. Great scrap between them as well. That's why we didn't really see Fernando at the time. He just popped up in 5th place. But Max and Lewis.
Yeah, it was great. Reel-to-wheel stuff between the 2 of them.
Yeah, terrific. And Max just defending the inside. Not much that Lewis could do from there. But it's a nice sign of things to come for tomorrow.
I want to look very quickly at the race that the 2 McLaren drivers had. Lando in 5th, Ricciardo in 6th. They'll both start 1 position ahead of where they qualified. Much of that, of course, due to Sergio falling down the order as he did. But the 2 of them had to race hard to get in front of Fernando.
Yeah, you always have to race hard to get in front of Fernando. But I think they're big winners, obviously, because Sergio fell down, and that's a driver that you'd normally expect to be ahead and started ahead of him. But nice moves from the 2 of them come through. And once they passed Fernando, there was no one behind them anymore, no one really ahead, because the Alpine pace on the soft tyre was nowhere near that of Leclerc ahead. So I think Charles had about 10 seconds in 4 laps.
Yeah.
So the race ahead was gone for McLaren. But the big thing, they start right behind Leclerc, and that's their fight for tomorrow.
As you say, Charles, who's just walking through the crowd here, absolutely disappeared off. Had a great run today to P4. Charles, let's put you there, my man. We were just saying what a great run you had. I mean, you were one of only 4 drivers today that didn't change your starting position, and yet I think you had a great race, really solid, great pace. How did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, actually. I think it was great, and with the sprint race on Saturday, it makes the Friday a lot more exciting to me. But speaking about the race, the pace was great. We were not so far off Valtteri the whole race, actually, so it's looking good for tomorrow.
What would you be saying to me now if you'd had a day like Carlos, though, and fallen down the order? Because that's the jeopardy of today, of course. After all that work in qualifying, it can come undone. It's a tricky one, isn't it, with the jeopardy?
Yeah, it can go one way or the other, but it's the way it's racing. I think it's always that way, but I think he should be happy. I think he did a great race today, coming back from behind in so little laps we had today. So yeah, congratulations to him, and tomorrow is the main race anyway, so if we keep the pace we've had today, I'm pretty sure that we can do a good result as a team.
What about when you saw Valtteri lining up on a soft tyre right next to you? You thought it could have got even better, maybe?
Yeah, no, because I expected them to do that, just to protect the position at the start and then to just manage in front, but actually we were quicker than what I thought we would be, so we put a little bit pressure, a bit too far to put a lot of pressure, but tomorrow the race is long and anything can happen, so I will push 100%.
Great job.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming on the show. Charles, we were talking a little bit about his teammate Carlos Sainz, who did have a more difficult afternoon. He lost 2 places, started 9th, finished 11th. Carlos Sainz, one of the losers in today's race, but didn't he put in a brilliant drive?
Hey Carlos, it all kind of went wrong at the start. Talk me through it.
Yeah, I guess I was a victim, of a mistake there from George, and I got pumped off, and caused me going back to last in lap 1, and then obviously I had fun after that because I could make my way through the field with strong pace and finish 11th to minimize the damage, but it's not where I wanted to finish today.
But the pace of the car must give you a lot of hope that tomorrow, a longer Grand Prix.
Yeah, the pace of the car is there, and especially in the race now, it felt better than in quali, and we were very strong, to be honest. So hopefully we can do the second part of the recovery tomorrow.
And you like the format?
I enjoyed it because I came from behind, but obviously for some other people it was a bit more boring up front. For me, that I was out of position was not so boring. But I don't think it's for us to judge as drivers. I think it's better let the fans judge, and it's a format to entertain the fans, not us. So hopefully they like it.
Great.
Carlos Sainz then finishing in P11. Now, Jolyon, one of the undoubted heroes of yesterday's qualifying session, George Russell, the crowd going absolutely crazy for him. Beautiful laps all the way through. And the problem with this sprint format, as a lot of people would see it, is that, or had believed it might have been, is that for someone like George, who has been such a qualifying specialist, that under normal race conditions he might have just fallen back through the order and be forced to start the race P17, P18. That didn't happen. A P9 for him today.
It was good, yeah. Obviously had that touch with Carlos that the stewards are still looking into, but I think he will get away with that. And then it's just cemented that strong weekend so far. I mean, he's almost like the fans' favourite this weekend. Yeah. I mean, obviously the British driver, but the way they cheered him through to Q3 yesterday was phenomenal. And again, as he went round to the grid, it was everyone off their seats. They love him. And I think he's done well to stay in the top 10. We know the Williams, particularly for George, can be a little bit better on a normal Saturday or a qualifying one-lap pace than in race trim. Sometimes George drops back at the start of races as well. I think that's maybe an area that he'll be looking to work on. But he did well enough this time. Obviously, Fernando came through, he came past everyone. But I think George is still good. He starts in the top 10 again.
Yeah, he had a great run today. You said those race starts have been his big issue all the way through the year. He said he doesn't get his elbows out as much as he needs to, just trying to play it a little bit safe. He didn't play it safe today in that moment with Carlos. It was an interesting one. But for now, we have Lando Norris with us. Lando, first ever F1 sprint race. You made up a position. What did you make of it?
I mean, it was right. I gained a position, so yeah, I'm happy. I think it's weird because once you really settle into it, it's the checkered flag. So yeah, it's a bit odd. Normally you're always like, all right, what can I do to look after the tyres now? What can I do with the pit stops and strategy? Whereas there's none of that. So it's like you miss that feeling of the race. But it's a sprint race. It's not the feature race like we have tomorrow. So yeah, good enough, and I gained a position, so I'm happy.
Frustrating to be held up by Fernando for so long?
Yes, but it also just made my race more fun, I would say, because like Leclerc was miles faster than us today, so even if I got past much earlier or Fernando didn't get past, I don't think we could have achieved anything more than 5th place, because even when I was in clean air, he was still pulling away a lot. So yeah, frustrating that our pace was so poor comparing to them, really. But it was as expected, I would say. In this temperature, it's just what we struggle with the rear tyres and the rear of the car. So frustrating, but it's the best we could do.
We know you've got a big battle on with Ferrari at the moment. Charles looked really quick today, and Carlos, despite falling down the field, managed to make those positions up. How do you think tomorrow's going to go for that battle between you and them?
I mean, I'll try my best to get past and make his race hard, but it's not like we've been quicker in every race and now they're just all of a sudden quick. They've been quicker than us a lot of the year on race pace and quali pace. Just they've made more mistakes and struggled more in some races in particular. They've crashed and stuff like that. So, we're just keeping our nose clean, and touch wood, we can do it again tomorrow. And that's what's making the difference. But a lot of the time they've been quicker so far this season. So yeah, it's going to be tough, especially with Carlos. I know he's going to be coming through. He's a good racer, so I look forward to hopefully fighting him as well.
Great job, man. Thanks
Cheers.
so
Cheers,
much.
guys.
And we will hear from George Russell in a little moment, but I want to go now to Sam Collins, who is in the paddock with Andreas Seidl down at McLaren. Sam, I'm sure Andreas, a pretty happy guy after both his drivers made up a position for tomorrow's Grand Prix.
Well, I haven't actually got down to Andreas. I was just walking down the paddock and I saw him emerge from the motorhome, and I thought I'd grab him because I know Andreas Buchan from our days in a different championship. Andreas, that was an interesting concept of race, something we haven't seen before. Short 17 laps, free tyre choice. Both your cars started on the mediums, but we saw some of the others starting on the softs. Was that something you considered?
Obviously, that was the main objective, let's say, of the practice sessions as well, to figure out what's the right thing to do. It was quite close in terms of making a decision, because as we have seen and also today. But for us, we felt more comfortable, also the two drivers on the medium tyres, and that's why we went for them. And I think it worked out pretty well for us.
When you saw Alonso not far behind you on the soft tyre and actually getting a little bit interfering with your guys, and also Valtteri Bottas on those used softs up front, did you start thinking that maybe you'd made a mistake?
No, to be honest, we were happy with our decision. We were happy also with the outcome, of course, with Fernando making the jump at the beginning. It cost us any chance, let's say, to stay close to Charles. But at the same time, Charles had great pace, I would say, today. So I think it would have been difficult anyway to battle him. So it was good to move up one position. That was the objective for this first sprint race for us today. Obviously a great position for us going into tomorrow in the main race. So very happy.
We saw quite a bit of blistering up and down the grid on the medium tyre, almost more than the soft. Was that what you expected to see? Because it's only 17 laps in. We sort of expected the mediums to start dropping off a little later.
Yeah. Now we're very aware from what we have seen also in the practice sessions that the risk is there, especially with, let's say, pushing throughout these 17 laps, as you have said before. But I think it was still under control, so it was not really a concern. And obviously it will be interesting now then going into tomorrow, how it plays out there in terms of tyre strategies.
Okay, well, super. Thank you very much for that, Andreas. I'll see what you're going to be doing tomorrow. I'm quite interested in that. Quite a lot of interesting stuff happening down here in the paddock. I'll talk about that to you presently. But for now, while I walk down to the other end of this very long Silverstone paddock, back to you, Will.
Thanks very much, Sam. Jolien, as Andreas was saying, the strategic implications of these sprint races is something entirely new for all the teams. Interesting to see who today played it as something unique and who saw it as a first stint of tomorrow's Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's always the balance, isn't it? Something new, something that everyone had to get their heads around. And the strategy choice for the teams was the tyres. There's no pit stop in that race, so it was just put tyres on the car and then you're stuck with that. So I was surprised to see some on the soft tyres, because it just showed attacking intent, really, when most of the field was on the medium, which was the more conservative one. But then there's the relationship also between the team choosing that strategy and the driver executing that strategy, because you know if you're starting on a soft tyre, you've got to make the most of it. You've got to drive with your elbows out moving forward.
One driver who said he wanted to drive with his elbows out today was George Russell. He didn't have any softs left in his arsenal, no new softs anyway for George Russell today. He put in a stellar drive nevertheless, and will start the British Grand Prix from 9th place.
Hey George, crikey, that moment at the start with Carlos probably gave all the fans in the grandstand a bit of a scare. How was it for you?
It was quite all right, to be honest. I mean, a bit of a touch. Nothing too crazy, just part of racing. You know, it's always tricky at the start of races. Unfortunately, nothing worse happened, and we both finished the race and carried on with no damage. So, it sort of just shows the extent of the coming together, really. But no, overall, quite an interesting race. Obviously, the tyres don't have a chance to degrade. You know, the tyres would normally start to degrade after 17 laps. So it was kind of just flat out the whole way. Single file, almost, so difficult to overtake, but the real action was probably about to start. So I guess that's the feature of this sprint qualifying. And I mean, first top 10, just typical Reddit. You don't get points for it.
But must give you plenty of encouragement for tomorrow, because you know held your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had faster cars around us, in front, behind, and managed to hold position. I mean, Fernando had a great start, obviously, on the soft compound tyres.
yeah, we need to see. It was not easy out there. I don't think it was easy for anybody. But like I said, it's the critical stage of the tyres, and the overtaking or defending part of it comes probably after lap 17 when the tyres are really crying for help. So let's see how we can do tomorrow.
Great stuff. Good luck. Thank you.
Peak George Russell, as he described. The one time he finishes in the top 10, and it's not even for points. One driver who didn't finish in the top 10 today, was hoping to when I spoke to him yesterday, was Pierre Gasly. Started 12th, finished 12th. Melissa Natu is in the paddock with him.
I am with Pierre. I mean, you didn't lose any places, but you didn't make up any places. How are you feeling?
Honestly, it was a very difficult race for us since yesterday. We were just too slow, and we were struggling on this track for whatever reason. We're slow in the straight and struggling a lot in high speed, and you know, it's first time this season that for whatever reason the car is not clicking, and today was extremely hard. So yeah, we'll try everything we can to at least score a point tomorrow.
What do you think you can do tomorrow? Are you hoping for the top 10 at least? Are you
Yeah, we hope, but we haven't made it all weekend so far. It's gonna be very hard, but yeah, we'll have to find a way, like at the start and with the strategy, to make up some positions.
Okay. How did you feel about sprint in general?
To be fair, I haven't time to think really about it, and I was quite disappointed with the race. So we'll think about that later this weekend.
Do you think tyres are going to play a big part in the race tomorrow?
Yes, always, but I mean, I believe we're probably all gonna be on the same strategy. So yeah, we'll have to see like tonight, but yeah, on our side we've got quite a lot of work to do better tomorrow, because yeah, we want to do better than that.
Well, good luck tomorrow,
Thanks.
Pierre. Thank you so much. Will, back to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Now, we were talking, Joe, weren't we, about Fernando Alonso, what a brilliant day he had. Inarguably, I think, the driver of the day. Race is over too quick to vote for them. But probably, if anybody had their vote, it would have been for Fernando. A brilliant drive. Let's hear from the Spaniard, who made up a whopping 4 places. Starts the British Grand Prix in 7th.
Fernando, you were the star of that race. What a start. You must have been so excited as you were fighting your way through the field.
Yes, it was very intense. Only 45 seconds or 1 minute of high intensity. After that, it was a very long race for me. You know, I know that it was a sprint qualifying for you, but for me it was like a marathon, because I was a little bit out of position. P5 was not our real pace on track. So yeah, we had to give up on the McLarens, but then we could hold Sebastian behind. And yeah, P7 is good for tomorrow.
So ultimately, the gamble paid off, didn't it? Because I know you lost those positions, but you gained massively.
Yeah, we gained 4 positions. Yeah, and I think we did the right call. You know, the start was mega. First lap was very good, and then the degradation, okay, it was higher on the red tire, but not to a point that you could not drive, you know, anymore. So, you know, I think tomorrow is going to be difficult, because also the yellow tire degrade quite a lot. So it's going to be a long race for everybody.
It's great seeing the old Fernando back, isn't it? Properly elbows out, fighty. That's what we wanted when he came back to Formula One.
Honestly, when I saw this format, I thought the one driver this is going to suit is going to be Fernando. Yeah. And starting in the midfield, even when he was at the front, when he was at Ferrari, he was always making places at the start. It was always his strength. And the start is so important. And he made up the places, couldn't keep the McLarens behind, but he lives for these sort of moments.
Can we talk about his line down the hanger straight? Looked like he was still in Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah. Those soft tyres were taking a hammering, weren't they? Go through Maggots and Beckett's, and then he's still weaving all the way down the straight as well, and then into Stowe. I don't know how they hung on.
I don't know how he didn't get a penalty.
Well, I'm surprised he didn't get black and white flag.
I know.
We see that all the time, the black and white flag for that sort of thing. So he didn't, and he carried on doing it for a bit. But hey, he held back Sebastian Vettel in the end, and he still made good places.
He was indeed. You may have seen walking behind us there, Brawn. Ross, your reaction on today's sprint race? There were a lot of people who didn't think it necessary. A lot of people think it didn't work. But today, what have you made of that 17-lap contest?
I was very pleased. I was on the edge of my seat. We had some great battles. We saw the old Fernando Alonso again.
We were just talking about that.
It was worth the ticket price just for that. So that was great. And I think it's the whole weekend. You know, it's the whole Friday, Saturday, and I think the race tomorrow will have some different complexions. The drivers have now felt the tyres, the teams have seen how they behave, may change their strategies a bit tomorrow. So, and I don't think we've diluted anything. We've only added to the whole weekend.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. It's fascinating. Only 4 drivers will start the Grand Prix tomorrow from the position which they qualified yesterday. Does that show that today's been a success in terms of what you wanted from it? And I guess that's sort of answering a question I should have answered first, which is what were your hopes, what were your intentions from this?
Well, I think, as I say, the 3 days of action, so naturally building, qualifying on Friday, sprint Saturday, Grand Prix on a Sunday, we'll achieve that. I think it's interesting that only 4 drivers are starting where they qualified from, which shows and Jolyon knows this, that racing drivers are racing drivers. You put them out there in a car and they're not going to take it easy. Because if you take it easy, they're going past you. And that's no good. So we saw what I expected to see, which is great action.
I just sort of thought that everyone's going to be a little bit cautious, but you're right. As soon as the lights went out, it was cars everywhere.
Yeah.
It was really good stuff. So it's the first sprint. There's 2 more coming up. Is there going to be any sort of tinkering? Are you going to look at how things can improve from here? Are you happy with that one, or where does it go?
I can see some things that I would like to take forward a little bit. Nothing major. But I think we'll sit down with the FIA and the teams over the next couple of weeks. We'll digest what the fans are telling us, what the media are saying, and just see if we need to tune it a little bit. But I think basic format is great.
Well, Ross, you were on the edge of your seat. I'm sure the folks at home were on the edge of their seat as well. Verstappen taking the pole position. Fernando, as you said, back to his brilliant best. It was a wonderful holding on job from George Russell. Yeah. We had Carlos pushing through the field. Sergio dropping out. It was, I mean, it had everything condensed down into 100 kilometers. So great fun. Can't wait to see the Grand Prix tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show as well, Ross. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. I think Ross has summed it all up there, hasn't he? I think, there are still tweaks that can be made. They've said they're going to look at those tweaks they can make moving into Monza, which is the next race. And Monza, of course, a very different circuit to here at Silverstone. We know the start of the British Grand Prix is usually a pretty exciting affair. Monza, what can we expect there, do you think, from a sprint event?
Well, I don't really know. I think that's the beauty of it. No one knew what to expect here, and we ended up having a lot more scrapping than I thought. I thought it might just be everyone a little bit cautious, maybe some drivers further back really going for it. I probably underestimated Alonso in the midfield and the drama that he'd create. But it's a great circuit, this one. You can really race wheel to wheel through a number of corners. As you said, we've seen some great first lap action in the past, and that was the case again. Monza's another iconic circuit, so hopefully more of the same. Some big braking zones, and there's quite a lot of jeopardy there.
So one driver we haven't yet spoken to was Sergio Perez. We talked about the guys who've had the great day. The one who will be going to bed tonight, the most disappointed of all, is Sergio Perez. Lost a whopping 15 positions, started 5th. Will start the British Grand Prix 20th and last.
Hey Checo, I don't know where to start. How was that afternoon? Where did it all start to go wrong?
Had a bad start, and trying to get positions back with the car, managing the pace, and picking up the throttle out of the corner. I just lost it, and I became a passenger very, very early on, and that meant that I lost the car and did a lot of damage for my race. Then I had too many vibrations from the off, and I just look forward for tomorrow. It's been a very poor day for myself, and I'm very sorry for the team, and I just look forward to a new day tomorrow.
Well, that was Sergio Perez, understandably disappointed by his result today. And, of course, what that means, the knock-on effect for the remainder of the weekend. Now, Jolyon and I have been talking, of course, about the strategic permutations of this event and what it has made for the weekend. One man who knows all about that is Pirelli's Mario Isola. And Sam Collins has managed to track him down a little bit further down the paddock. Sam.
Well, yeah, I've just wandered into Mario Isola, as I tend to after a race. And now, Mario, for me, that was a fascinating slice of Formula One history. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel the same, because it was interesting to see 4 cars starting on a different strategy. It was nice to see Fernando playing a different game, and at the end of the day, he had the 4 position more for tomorrow. It's nice to see something new. I know we will have lots of discussion because for sure somebody's not happy and somebody's happy, but at least we tried something new.
And I think that was really important to try something new, and it was an interesting experiment. And I'm interested to see how it plays out in Monza, your home circuit, how that plays. But something that surprised me looking forward to tomorrow for the British Grand Prix was we didn't expect the soft tyre, particularly Valtteri Bottas starting 3-lap-old soft tyres, going to the end on those and seemingly not having many problems with them. But the medium tyre, we were starting to see blisters after about 10 laps. And really towards the end, they were quite obvious. Did you expect to see that blistering on the medium tyre?
We saw some blistering on the medium tyres also during free practice, because obviously it's a matter also of wear. So keeping more rubber on the tyre, you can have more heat and therefore some blistering. While on the soft, it's less, but tomorrow it's different because the cars will be heavier, especially at the beginning of the race. Let's see what happens with the weather. It's predicted to be hotter than today. I believe that most of the teams not having the obligation to start on the Q2 tire, they will try a one-stop strategy using the medium and the hard. But maybe what can be interesting is to see somebody starting on the hard, because as I said, the top 10 have no obligation. So it's also an opportunity to start on the hard, having a long first stint and move maybe on the medium, maybe on the soft.
Do you prefer this format where the teams have completely free tyre choice? Because I kind of do.
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure, because when you have something new, it's a bit more unpredictable and they don't have all the elements to understand. But after a few races, the problem is that they converge to the same strategy. So let's wait a little bit to understand if it works or not.
Well, I think that was a fascinating experiment. Mario Isola, thank you very much for chatting to us as ever. And well, Will and Joe, actually, what did you think to that yourself? I think coming back to you at the desk, I think that was absolutely a fascinating insight and a really good experiment. So back to you, Will.
Completely agree, my friend, completely agree. Jolien, what do you reckon? Free choice of tyres at the start of a race? Is that what we like? Is that something where we want to move to in the future?
I like it, yeah. I think it's a bit outdated, isn't it, the Q2 tyre rule? It had a purpose a while ago, but I think it just adds a bit more something to the start of the Grand Prix. You know, people don't know in Q2 where they're going to qualify. Yeah. Now they do, and they can have a strategy that basically is best for them.
Yeah, I like it. I like it very much. 3 guys who will like where they finished today. Actually, 2 of them. One of them probably not so much because he started first and he finished second. Let's hear from our top 3 drivers. Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton, and the man who takes 3 points for the win, but more importantly than that, possibly pole position for the British Grand Prix. Let's hear from your top 3 drivers.
I mean, around here it's difficult to pass, but we had a good start and a good fight with Lewis in the first lap. And then we tried to do our own pace, but you could see we were pushing each other hard because at the end of the race the tires were blistering a lot, so we had to manage that to the end. But nevertheless, I mean, happy to of course score those 3 points, and it sounds a bit funny to then hear you scored a pole position, but anyway, we'll take it. And again, I think it will be a really exciting battle tomorrow.
You know, tomorrow, as I said, we'll fight again, but I mean, they were just so strong. In the race, he was pulling away. Nothing I could do to hold on to him. So we've really got to try and be in front somehow. They've done a great job with their engine. Their starts are really great this year. We've lost a bit of performance on our starts, so we've got to work a bit harder to try and improve that, because losing positions is never a great thing.
We tried to do something different, and obviously the target was to try and get him at the start or in the first lap. Didn't happen. I think he had a good start as well. In turn 1 I was slightly blocked, so I couldn't really use the momentum, but we tried, and in the end still managed to keep the place with a soft tire, even though there was some blistering. But so yeah, I mean, it's okay.
Well, there you go, your top 3 drivers, and Jolien, all that's left now, I say all that's left now, British Grand Prix.
That's what it's all about. That was just a teaser. It's going to be great, and I think we're set up for a really good one. Obviously, Max back on pole position as he's been for the last few, but 2 Mercedes that are quick here, Lewis Hamilton, home crowd, and all that boost that he'll get, set up nicely.
And what a crowd. I mean, look, we've been lucky coming to races for the last 18 months. But here this weekend, driving in every day, 100,000 plus people every day, the atmosphere, the feeling of just passion, it's what it's all about. It just feels right again.
Yeah, the whole of sport, but we've missed it in Formula One, and the British crowd as well. I mean, maybe I'm biased, I'm a British driver, but I absolutely loved it coming here, and I think for Lewis, for Lando and George, they've taken a huge boost so far, and they'll carry that into tomorrow. But the crowd are supportive of Formula One and everyone, and just seeing a good race. And if today's anything to go by, hopefully we're in for a good Grand Prix tomorrow.
And there we go. Look at that. That is Silverstone. The many campsites, the many tents, the many fans, all expectedly awaiting the British Grand Prix 2021. Hamilton may have been the speed king on Friday, but he will not be the pole sitter on Sunday. That honour instead falling to Max Verstappen at the end of Formula One's first ever sprint. And if you think 17 laps was exciting, what will the British Grand Prix have in store? My thanks to Jolyon, to Sam Collins, to Melissa Natu, to all of you for watching, to all of our guests today for coming on the show as well. Thank you so much. We will see you for the British Grand Prix. For now, though, on behalf of all of us here at Silverstone, we'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching.